No, I just like pause so I can hit the button and like focus on the screen over here. It does the thing. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Calm down. We got this. Okay. Everything's good. Kosher. Anyways, if that red light is to be believed, that means we are live here on another Monday night here on. Welcome to Low Key on the Wheeler Terrace Network. I'm your host, Harry, aka the Moving Target. If this show's going to be just interesting. So, like, I gave space for Reinhold to explain some of the wacky world that he belongs to. So and in our little private little chat room we have here, which if you're a $5,000 and up Patreon member, you have access to the chat room. You can see some of our chats there, and while in it, Vincent was like, "I've got an idea for a show," and for some reason he sat there and acted like I would poo poo any idea he brought up, and I was just like, "No, please, this will be fun." I was a little worried at it at first because you don't want to give this boy like too much creativity because he just, I don't know. I still like to be acceptable on YouTube, at least right now. But anyways, before I get too long into it, into the explanation of what we're talking to, I think I should introduce the cast of character because now they're being polite and actually staying quiet in the back end. So let's introduce Reinhold first. Reinhold, I'm going to go say hi to everybody.
I was going to pretend like my mute was on, and that's why you didn't hear me. I am glad to be here, especially since I've not had any sleep. So good times for everybody when I don't have any sleep.
Yep. All right. Okay. Reinhold's contract ends in July. We'll be auditioning for new third members. Please send all your auditions for audition at lowkeywall.com. We also got Vincent here. Vincent.
I'm here. This is my episode. For context, I
haven't even introduced the context of the show.
No, I know you haven't even gone that far, but I knew you wouldn't poo-poo the idea. Mm-hmm. I just happened to have a lot of extra time that day because of my work schedule was weird. So if like Reinhold was busy, I had enough time to research something to slide in. That's what the context of that was, sir.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure, like you didn't feel like I was saying like, no, you can't come up with anything. Just Reinhold and I only.
Oh, I know. If I have ideas, you'll let me.
Yeah. All right. Okay. That's fine.
There's a reason. There is a main episode of Wall that's just us talking about parasocial relationships from and using the idol culture to do it.
Yep. Call this my Reinhold bug. Oh man, we gotta get Reinhold to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. Just for because I really want to recreate this one scene, like a skit for the podcast. Is the Uncle Iroh talking to Zuko and explaining the 4 elements? I think Reinhold could pull it off in his own way, make it neat. Of course, after 8 to 10 hours of sleep, of course,
max.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, so
16 at this point. I need.
Like, all right, guys, I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. What do you mean? I'm sleeping the entire time. It's called a pre-summer hibernation.
All right, so then this episode is obsession with nostalgia creating a creative crisis? So what does that mean? What do you mean, creative crisis? What's going on?
So
introduce your episode.
This is based off of one of the conversations that we've had several times before. A lot of it comes when there are shows that get made based off of IPs or properties or nostalgic pieces of media that they're just using the name to create a new show, which creates expectations, which nukes the show because people don't enjoy the expectations. If you remember, we were talking about how the live action Cowboy Bebop show would have been fine if it wasn't called Cowboy Bebop. It would have been a fine show in and of itself.
Right.
But all the good ideas or anything that was there that was good about it gets completely nuked by the fact that it's attached to this IP that people have expectations about.
Yeah, I would even dare say that you could even said it would just set in the world of Cowboy Bebop, and it still would have been like I may even watched it, even if say it was just set in the same world, or just said like or just said like, hey, this is the worked on the same people. But anyways, keep going. Yes.
Right. It's or another great example is the Resident Evil Netflix series, which they were only using Resident Evil in name only.
Oh my god! No, we're done. We're done. The show's over. I'm so angry.
You're already angry. Hi, Christy. We appreciate you watching. Hi, Wicked. So,
oh god,
another good example would be The Watch. Another example would be The Watch, which was a retelling of Terry Pratchett work that barely resembled anything that was ever written down. It was more of a sci-fi version of a fantasy book. I don't understand what they were trying to do with that one.
Okay, I didn't see that, and I'm kind of glad I didn't.
He said, I would have been very
didn't
upset.
last long.
But it's become this thing where that a lot of things to be made, they have to be attached to an IP. I've read a lot of things and seen a lot of people talk about this concept of, especially like YouTubers that are close to the entertainment industry or working or like animators that want to get into the industry and stuff. A lot of what gets greenlit has to be connected to an already existing IP, because that's what the corporations see makes money.
Okay.
So creative ideas get rejected a lot more unless you force it into being connected to something that it has no connection with. Like that Resident Evil TV show, whatever, like it being called Resident Evil put people in a bad state of mind going in. No matter how good or bad the show was, because it wasn't Resident Evil, people had immediate negative expectations of it because they were using something that people love or people are invested in to make money.
Correct.
And it becomes this spiraling sense of pain, because if the only thing that gets made is stuff that's attached to things that are already made, then what becomes nostalgia in the future?
Double nostalgia.
What gets created? Yeah, you're just gonna get nostalgia for the same thing, and then you're gonna get a cycle of the same stuff over and over and over again. Okay. And that just feeds into corporations that have the IPs for these things or have control over these things that can just continue to have massive power over the cultural zeitgeist, because the thing that people are watched 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago is being remade again, and now that's going to be the thing that stays in the zeitgeist again, and now that corporation Disney can keep doing whatever they want.
Without respect, we reject. So are we talking about like remakes, reboots, or reimagines, or are we also going to put in the same category like sequels? I'm just saying that after coming off of watching Top Gun Maverick, it's like, is that the same category? So
in my opinion, while sequels do have that issue where it's playing on nostalgia, they're at least doing something with respects to the original without trying to like change it or basically use it as set dressing. That happens a lot for most of the things.
Thank you. You finally coming around to Force Awakens. See, I told you it was a good sequel.
But if you look at Force Awakens, as I said, the 7th one isn't that bad. I liked the 7th movie. It wasn't the worst. It's definitely better than the other two. But if you really look at it, it's just episode 4 again.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
like
a new coat of paint.
Well, Top Gun Maverick does the same thing a little bit. A little bit. Stakes are different. The character. Okay, all right, it's not, but you know.
Wicked Kinders, like this seems to be a perspective of a media viewer, but I gotta imagine that writers and producers are fans of legacy media and want to put their own spin on nostalgic projects. And I agree with that. The issue is that the nostalgic product is always owned by the people who made it first. That's why if you're looking at comic books, there's a reason why there's a lot of issues in the comic book industry, because whenever a writer takes over a character, let's say they take over Batman, they need to make a character that they can sell that gives them the rights to it. Because whatever character they make, the creator gets the rights to it. That's why, the character Signal exists, because Duke wasn't a character that mattered, but he needed something to sell, so the writer created a new character. That's why a lot of the comic book stuff, whenever a writer takes over for a character, they create a brand new villain.
Right.
Because if that villain becomes in movies, they get back pay. That's their character. That's their IP.
Well, sometimes it's not that. It's the so a good example would be the Tick, where he made the Tick TV show, right? The cartoon, Ben Edlund, and then he went on to do the live action TV show years later, but he couldn't use the characters he created for that show because Warner Brothers owned him. So he had to create all new characters for the live action show because he didn't have the rights to his own work.
Right.
Because of the way the contracts and the way studios are and everything else too. So there was a lot of, whenever you see a lot of weird decisions in some of these things, sometimes it's lawyers that are the reason.
Right.
Yeah. And the certain wizarding lady, she ruined it for a lot of different people for like writing books, because when you sign your contract or like your book series, they want all your rights for your books. So and if this thing becomes a hit, we want your movie rights and amusement parks. I was like, what? Yeah. So
I still don't know how she got away with that, considering she just wrote basically Star Wars Episode 4 all over again. So.
but it's set in a fantasy world.
It's different. It's different. See, it's got
different.
It's got racism. It's got racism and a sprinkle of transphobia on the top. Sprinkle of transphobia on the top. So it's different. Man. Sorry.
Of course, a lot of people say that Star Wars was a ripoff of Seven Samurais or whatever. I mean, everything's derivative at some point.
Yeah, of course.
You got to be careful, but
there's always, depending on how you want to aim it, there's only a certain amount of stories that can be told, that can be retold over and over again. The hero's journey is a thing.
Yeah. I think you're more talking about literally using the IP or the name recognition of something to create something else that is not by the original author, is not full of what the original author did, and it's not respectful to the idea behind it.
Like, let's take Kevin Smith's He-Man. This is not a He-Man show.
No,
He-Man's barely into his show. The TV show. Let's get on it. Anyone who watched that could honestly saw what was happening. Like, oh, he's going to be off there powerless and dead, and no one cares. He's saved in his own show. So it's like, all right, this is pointless. It's kind of like the let me slow down.
Let me slow down. He was going.
Get your breath.
He was going. I was gonna let him go.
Pop the veins back in.
Let him cook. I was gonna let him cook. It's fine.
Because I don't want to also get confused, because some of I was going to get it confused a little bit. It was like some of the bait and switch that has happened in certain movies, but this is different. This is more of like using nostalgia to get you to watch something and just kind of flip your head, because this is original story. They just kind of patterned it with the coloring of this thing. Like, hey, you liked X, here it is again. psych, it's our own story. I thought you enjoyed this one character, but we're going to make this character annoying, possibly a murderer for some reason. And your favorite character, who was like the super awesome guy, now he's actually a jerk and racist. Oh, man.
We're the baddies, right?
Yeah. Everyone's the baddie. Everyone's bad. It's you may wanted this thing, but nope, too bad. It's
like another great example here is Ghost in the Shell. The Netflix Ghost in the Shell, Harry.
Does that count?
I'm glad you brought it up. I'm told I'm not allowed to.
Does that series really count? Okay, all right, okay. Let's talk about Smurfette.
Smurfette Dark Lord.
I have yet to watch this. Is this real? Is this a really real show? This Wiki Kinder puts the Smurfs, the rise of the Smurfette Dark Overlord. Don't give Netflix any ideas, okay?
Yeah.
But oh god.
No,
all right,
no,
so
not real.
Thank
you, Wiki Kinder.
Netflix did a Ghost in the Shell continuation, right? And honestly, the first part of it is really good. It does feel kind of a little wishy-washy in the Ghost in the Shell universe. All your characters you like back, but for some reason, right in the middle to the end, they introduced this clearly self-insert Mary Sue character, double MIT grad, double major, super brilliant, awesome thing, and somehow has like ties with most of the main cast, but you don't know why. You don't find this out till later, and it's like.
Right. It's obvious that they wanted to tell that character's story.
Right.
But they wanted to use the other characters to make them look better.
Yeah. And it did work. And like the whole series falls flat to me. Like it gets all this build up. Just like, okay, something's big is happening, and it's gonna go like, oh, this is honestly, I would want to give the fast jerk motion, but this is the whitest kids slow jerk eye contact motion. That's how awkward that other second season was. That
R.I.P. Trevor Moore.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's one of those things that when you
it's
can...
a good joke.
Yeah. It also shows how reliant certain people become on the concept of nostalgia. Between Moana and Encanto, tell me 3 Disney movies that came out at that time, because I'm pretty sure 5 came out between then and now. Between those 2 movies coming out. Right. No live action movies though. I'm not talking about any of the live actions.
Can't use the live actions?
No.
Oh, you said just Disney, right? I can bring up Disney, right? Animated, right?
Yeah.
I've got no.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Even if you want to add Pixar in there, Disney Pixar.
Yeah, but that's just like, Gru and everybody else.
But it's just kind of that point of they, instead of focusing and creating new stories and characters and things for kids to get invested in, they just been taking their old movies and redoing them and not even telling the same stories. Like the Mulan movie was not Mulan.
Yeah. Well, I think what we're also finding out is through nepotism and deals, and just for some of certain things being in certain areas. I think that the people that has the keys to the kingdom are just like, I think you're right, creative bankrupt. They can't create new ideas, and the people who hired them know they can't create new ideas. So it's like, no, here, take this legacy IP. You should be able to easily write something next to this. They could just keep it going, and they just can't. I don't know if would we have a discussion. I don't know. Should we only talk about the good stuff, so we're not just trying to say this is just badly written?
I mean, there's good and bad. There's good versions of this scenario. If you look at Wednesday is they take a character, it's a reimagining. They're using this IP of the Addams Family, and while I haven't watched it, and you guys said it's really good,
Mm-hmm.
It's its own thing. They took the
Yes.
characters and did something interesting and created a new world based around it,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
while still staying true to what the Addams Family was originally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things
Meanwhile,
that people seem to forget, is that if you're using an IP, you want to hold respect to it.
Correct. I think it would
Yeah.
have fell flat if it was trying to be a continuation from the '90s movies. That
Right.
wouldn't have worked. Because that was its own thing, its own universe, and
Exactly.
trying to
it
continue
was a
that.
different too. You have to kind
Mhm.
of play to what's
Mhm.
in the zeitgeist now. But like I said, on the other side of that, remember, White Men Can't Jump just was released less than a week ago.
Mhm.
I'm
That's
sure you've
true.
all watched it and how great it is. And
Totally.
everything.
Ooh, good fair point. Wicked Kinder goes, by the same token, it was titled Wednesday, not Addams Family. That's
true.
true too. I
That is
think
true.
if it was titled Addams Family, that movie would have fell flat to me too. It was like,
Mhm.
what's the
Well,
other the Addams Family?
Right.
Right. Yeah. They wanted to tell the story of Wednesday and tangentially a little bit about the Addams Family. So yeah, by not calling it that, it was a smart move.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. And the whole thing really felt like you were watching a whole series also in Wednesday's POV. You know, it wasn't like all the way through Wednesday's point of view, but like it was really did feel like, you know, you're viewing this through like Wednesday's eyes. Like she views that she is the top of everything, that she could do all this stuff like that. It was like, I can't believe, like, because a lot of people would go through like some of the lore, like that wouldn't make sense. I was like, but in Wednesday's head, that does make sense. You know?
Right.
It's kind of like if you watch Enola Holmes, you know, a lot of people said they'd hated Enola, but it's like, no, you're watching that because you watch Sherlock. If you watch Enola Holmes and you view the movie as it's through her eyes, it's hilarious. Yes, Mycroft is just a misogynist dick. It doesn't know anything, even though he's one of the smartest men in the world. But to her, he's just this misogynist dick. And yeah, that's he was just, instead of just saying him going blah 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 misogyny blah blah blah, they gave him different lines. So, yeah, sorry.
You don't have to be sorry, but it's just my point of it is that there are creative ways to use IPs while showing respect to them, but a lot of the times, as of right now, it's we're just going to take the old thing and either redo it or use or puppeteer it as a corpse of itself.
Yeah. Moving it around just to sit there and use it to make money, to get
Exactly.
to draw fans in, to get to pick up something.
Right. And then it's one of those things of watching something like what they did with the Titans when they made the live action Teen Titans thing, where they went out of their way to do some really random stuff like make Starfire a prostitute and stuff like that. And then you compare it to the Harley Quinn show where they yes, they play up their personalities, but they still show respect to these characters. And when you enter into it, it's the characters are still intact, and you don't have to know anything about these characters going in because the narrative explains who these characters are. And I feel like that is one of the other massive things that happens is when people take an IP and want to do something different, and then instead of just going, I want to pay at least some respect to this while having a different idea or concept or way of going about it. That's how comic books. That's why there are so many like interesting stories for different versions of like Batman and Superman and all the different superheroes, is because yes, you have the same character and you're paying respect to that character, but you're not going out of your way to, well, I'm going to go out of my way to completely and utterly change everything about this character and ruin all the lore for anybody who cared about this character before or after because I want to make mine special.
Yeah, the simple fact. Yeah, I think the bottom dropped out of me on Star Wars when I watched the lightsaber that Luke trained on, which was Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, gets tossed off the bridge. I was like, yep, we're done here. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah. The lore and everything that you've picked up, that you've respected or expected different things, or rules that were set up, they just kind of subvert and destroy because they didn't want to research the lore, research the fandom. They just wanted to just to take it, run with it, and do their own series. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's what the whole without respect we reject.
Right. Like another great example is looking at some of the stuff that happened with the MCU through the Infinity Saga and some of the stuff that came afterwards. Like Moon Knight, they did not respect Moon Knight in the show Moon Knight.
Yeah, but is that nostalgia for Moon Knight? That's just bad writing and not respecting.
Well, I mean, yes and no, because the reason they're picking the certain characters is because the characters that people know and liked. The reason they were making TV shows for them is because they were purposely cashing in on people's nostalgic fandom for that character. Because Moon Knight hasn't had an individual comic series in like 10 years.
Right.
If not more.
Yeah, but sometimes it does hit. Spider-Man, it's anything Spider-Man really, but
Werewolf by Night did a really great job of taking a horror concept and a very interesting character and playing it in completely straight, completely different, and in its own concept of the Marvel universe. It happens in universe, but it's not following the rules. Like, oh, you have to have a massive CGI battle at the end for no apparent reason.
Skybeam
for everything,
Yeah.
It starts to feel like they're like, even if you look at the Ant-Man movie, right? Comparing the newest Ant-Man movie to the first Ant-Man movie, it feels like they're flanderizing Ant-Man as a character because he has no motivation to be anywhere in the quantum universe at all. In the entire show, in the entire movie, he's just kind of a bystander. The plot is moving around him, and it's a Kang movie. But even then, it's not a good Kang movie because they don't really show why Kang should be sympathetic or anything along those lines. But then you compare it to the first Ant-Man movie where he's being a thief and is kind of an asshole.
I like that.
And is a single dad. And then now it's like, now you're exploring this tiny universe, and any other superhero could have been in this story and the same thing would have happened.
Yeah.
This plot could have played out with any individual superhero, not just Ant-Man.
Right. Yeah. All right. So where does that confound with your nostalgia thing when it comes to one of my favorite series that are out there? A lot of people don't like watching this series, but that's because y'all don't have family. But the Fast and the Furious series. Is that nostalgia or it just keeps going?
It's definitely the whole point of the series is, yes, it keeps going, but it keeps pulling previous things that people liked and pulled into it to keep drawing people to keep watching. They literally they took the guys from Fast and Furious and made them create a car that can go into space. They went from creating cars that have nitro in Japan to cars that go into space. They picked characters that were nostalgic to people who have watched the series throughout the entire thing. And it's obvious that it works. The people who like the series are going to continue to like the series. They're pulling it in. They're bringing you interested into it.
Right.
And then you compare that to the Transformers stuff.
I think it's a little bit different to say, this is just an extension of the series by the same people who wrote the originals and are putting it together. Right. I mean, that's different than saying,
exactly,
we're going to come to this property and do something wholly different with it.
Exactly. They're still using, they're working within the same framework.
I mean, yeah, it's not necessarily always, it could be that the new stuff that somebody does is better than the original. And it could always be that the continuation of the series by the people who made it just keeps getting worse and derailed, and they're going for money grabs. So it's not always good or bad on that side of things. It's just a mindset that Hollywood has, is they want to go after what they know works.
Exactly.
Or has worked in the past. Let's continue doing that, because why put ourselves out on line to have a huge, flop, So
just put the Rock in things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just throw the Rock in there. And first off, the Fast and Furious, stay solid each time. Great writing every time. All right. Some of the quotable dialogue. I'm not going to quote it here now because we have an hour show.
but yeah, they're
Well,
still
remember, this next
working.
movie is going to be the first part of a 3-part and final to the show, to the series.
Yeah,
Right.
I believe. Yeah. Will it though? Will it?
So guaranteeing 3 more movies.
Yeah. That's when they time travel and they start over.
Yeah, but they're also it also is not like using the Fast and Furious as a way to create a brand new story, right? They're still using all the same characters for the most part through it, because they have the first couple of sequels they didn't use the same characters, but they combined them together, they eventually brought all these characters and made this a shared universe that they actually cared about, and they're using everything. It'd be different than if they finish these movies and then
we're done.
Yeah, they're done, and then 10 years later they do Fast and Furious again, but it's about like scooters.
Yeah. As long as it had family, it would make it through it.
No, they didn't
Need
even
to
do
have
that.
family.
No Vin Diesel, none of that.
Coronas. Because that means family.
All the things that you would want in a Fast and Furious, they're just kind of using the name Fast and Furious to get people to watch.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and for me, it's one of those things that it spans from a lot of it expands from both this, not just TV and movies, but also video games and stuff, because there's a lot of it where there's a lot of remakes of lots of games that keep coming out. Rollerball,
and you guys
hilarious.
Okay, all right. I would watch Rollerball, Fast and Furious. What was that? Death Rate? Okay, yeah. I think you're on to something there with a little Rollerball, Fast and Furious.
But it's
Fast. Oh man, Fast and Furious does the time machine. Okay, you're on to something. I like this.
You get him in a pitch room right now.
Someone get me Vin Diesel.
Oh my god. Fast and Furious was actually a Doctor Who show. The Camaro was bigger on the inside.
Dom's dad's not dead. He's a time lord.
Oh, it's terrible. I hate it.
They brought everybody else back. Everyone else is Dom's dad is terrible. He's a time lord. Comes in, saves him, dude. And that's why he keeps making these fantastical engines, because his dad's a time lord. You're on to something. Yeah.
But
anyways, so you guys keep buying these. I think it started because you guys kept buying these remakes. You guys for some reason kept buying GTA 5. You guys kept buying what is that other one? Skyrim.
You guys, this wasn't me. I didn't buy either one of those. But it's one of those, like, in gaming, if we're going to transition to like gaming and stuff, the nostalgia in gaming is also played out very much of reviving things that didn't need to be revived, like Saints Row and Harry Knows. or trying to make something that is
no. First off, no, stop. Full stop.
He's like,
they ruined a series that already had some brand damage, right? But people still loved it, right? And they took this gang of the 3rd Street Saints, right? In this series, you started off with just basic gangbangers just selling drugs, and you turn into an empire.
You become the president.
Yeah, you become the little president, with your vice president being Keith motherfucking David. Okay,
true statements.
And they reboot this thing, and you're college kids trying to pay off your student loan debts, and my brain is going like, I don't know how much you guys got in student loans, but Johnny Gat would have got that back in like a week. It was just, and they're like, we gotta afford this toaster. It's like, I thought we were gangbangers. Just go steal the toaster. What is wrong with you? This whole we gotta go buy this. We're fucking gangbangers. Okay.
Or like that the concept of rebooting a series in that manner, or the other thing of trying to make a game that's basically another game.
I almost kicked you because you went to reboot.
What?
Reboot?
Oh, I'm not gonna go there yet. we'll
Yeah.
get to reboot. We'll get to reboot the show. We'll get there. But like the game Callisto Protocol that came out the end of last year was done by the same people who made the original Dead Space, right? And people really wanted it, really excited about it because they really liked the Dead Space series, at least the first two games. The third one was a multiplayer horror game, which doesn't really work, especially if it's a narrative-driven multiplayer horror game. But they created this game. It's from the original creators, and the game just wasn't good. And not only was it bad, there's some of the mechanics in the game made no sense. Well, they made so if you're holding the opposite direction of an attack, you just dodge it. So it's literally got to a point where you could fight an entire boss without getting touched because you just hold left and right because their attacks are so choreographed.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But people were really excited about it because it's the people who made Dead Space. We love Dead Space. Dead Space is a great game. We love the horror, we love the environment, we love everything about it. And then you get into the game and it's just like, here's this audio log that you have to stop doing everything to listen to, and it won't play when you're moving.
Oh God, no.
If you want the horror, that's what you got to do.
No, I'm not about that life.
So
I've got to, no.
And it's sad to see people want to like get invested in things that are like something that they really enjoyed, and that they want to cash in on that kind of concept. That's why a lot of the live service games even came into existence, is because Destiny got big. People really liked Destiny when it first came out, which was just, let's take MMO loot grinding and put it in a shooter. And that's what it was. But people really enjoyed it. And then like 80 games decided to do the same thing.
Yep.
Because you get the same market and try to get the people who had the fun feelings of playing Destiny for the first time with friends and relive it. Same way with how some of the like Borderlands, if you go back and play Borderlands 2, that game's fun. Borderlands 3 has some issues. I'll admit that. I did play through it though. But then you play the Tiny Tina game, which is kind of very much just Borderlands again, and it just loses a lot of its own luster. A lot of its humor dies down because you're used to it, and they're trying to overcompensate by trying to amp up what was already there.
Yeah. We got our copy. We'll download it eventually and play it.
Well, World of Warcraft started off as a different genre, right? Too. I mean, it was based on, it was just taking that genre and doing something else with it.
Right. Yeah. Which is always great because that's why a lot of people still join in brand new MMOs, because they want to feel that same feeling they had when they first played an MMO.
So the creators that have control of these big titles, are they just creative bankrupt? Or are they just not having new ideas? Or what's going on?
They're jumping
Why did they come?
They want to jump on the trends. And that's the thing, is that nobody thinks ahead. They're basically thinking like 2 steps behind whenever something comes out. So when Fortnite became massive and big and that became the whole next big thing, everybody tried to do something just like Fortnite.
Everything was a battle royale.
Yeah, not only was everything with a battle royale, but everything tried to do the exact same season system as them. Like the whole battle pass system as it is now is because people wanted to match some of what Fortnite ended up doing.
Yeah, Fortnite was what you're talking about, though. It was a derivative of an existing thing. I mean, Player Unknown created the whole battle royale system, and did it for H1Z1, which then he went off and did PUBG, and then that's when everybody started kind of doing their own thing. So that's when they all started showing up. Fortnite was just the most successful one of that genre that pulled out of something else.
Yeah, it was the one that had the most mass appeal to it because it was so cartoony and was able to get kids in.
Well, and they added they added building to it, which I
Yeah.
never liked, but that was their little twist on it, and it was a little so. There's a whole difference between the arcade version of Battle Royale and the more simulation version. So
Right.
Battle Royale started off as Arma,
Mm-hmm.
Arma 3. So it was based off of that kind of technical, very, very precise, realistic type of shooter where bullets had momentums and things like that. It was all very physics based and relatable.
Yeah.
And then H1Z1 started more of a arcade version of it, and then Fortnite took it into an even further arcade version of it.
Right,
So,
which is even more hilarious because Fortnite was originally a PvE game
Yeah.
that they added a battle royale mode on the side, and that turned everything.
Yeah.
Oh, and then that's kind of what the opposite of what happened to Paladins.
Yeah.
Did I hear they were bringing that back?
Oh, Realm Reborn.
Royale.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's already back.
Is
They
it
already
back?
brought it back. But there's a lot of that. It's jumping on trends, but also when you see something become successful, people want to copy it.
See, I thought that was from Just Cause 2 multiplayer mod, and it just making like that mod in the background. So it's if you remember, you guys ever played Just Cause 2?
Mm-hmm.
And because it was like a single player game, you just jump right, you go through everything in the thing, and then someone created the mod, so you can have the multiplayer mod, so you get any for one in the thing, and then you just go off and do adventures. Like I thought there was a mod for that made it kind of like a battle royale, where a lot of that was coming from. But I could be wrong. I could be misremembering. I don't remember.
I mean, there are mods for a bunch of things. I mean, let's be honest. The fucking League of Legends was the fucking Warcraft mod.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that they want to hop on trends and use their IPs to get people to buy their thing. Look at, what was it? Heroes of the Storm, which was the Blizzard MOBA game that they took all their other IPs and shoved it into the game.
Yeah.
People play this because you can play with Tracer and next to the
StarCraft
the Lich
thing.
King, next to the Lich King, next to Kerrigan. Yeah, it's totally what people want. And the game just mechanically wasn't that good. But people were investing, people got into it because that's what they wanted to play with those unique characters. Same with, there was a DC MOBA game that came out that they used DC characters in order to have new characters. They used multiverse versions of characters.
All right. So, as an elder millennial, I don't have like the jaded nihilism that you do. Some of the nostalgia that is coming out, I like, because it feels like the world is finally pandering to me. And when I saw it over there, I said to myself, Harry, we're going to get drunk off this, and we're going to shout through a moon roof in a limo with one of these. And what I was looking at was the Sunny D, seltzer vodkas. Okay. All right. I could sit there and get drunk off of Sunny D now.
Oh my god!
So your nostalgia is some nostalgia. It's going everywhere. It's infecting everywhere part of the life. Yeah.
Nostalgia is everywhere. Everybody wants this nostalgia forever. There's a reason that Count Chocolate comes out every Halloween time, and all the Count Chocolate and the Blueberry and the Frankenberry.
Yeah, I've got to. My wife makes me go get all boxes every year.
Because people
she doesn't eat it all the way. She just wants it. She's gotta have the boxes.
It's the nostalgia of that's what I had when I was a kid. There's so much that everything is attached to nostalgia for a lot of people at this point because of how much media was around and pumped into our lives throughout the course of being on the internet age and the television age and all that stuff. There's so much nostalgic things that you can easily cash in on because there's so much of it.
Right.
Because they already made a remake of Powerpuff Girls. They made another Powerpuff Girls TV show, which was had actual writer self-insert himself into it, so that way he could date Blossom in the show, which
Okay.
is super weird. But
Yeah. All right. So these self inserts, okay. To me, self insert characters always seem like a cringe thing of young writing. So when I was going back and opening up old hard drives, I found some of my old writing from middle school with my self insert characters. And it's just like, this is awful. Well beyond that now, and I can't remember. And to me, self inserts like that just shows such juvenile writing. Yet it just seems like, oh, this is just getting released with just juvenile self insert bullshit.
I mean, not only is it, you can call it juvenile self-insert. I totally get that, but it's also that kind of concept that for a lot of people, it's when you're given the opportunity to write something, especially something massive, people are trying to use it as an escape. So they're trying to escape whatever their plain boring life is by putting themselves into something that they really like. And that's why, as like a middle schooler, as a young adult, when you don't really have like a concept of how the world's going to be, and things just feel boring because you can't do what you want to do, and you're constricted by the rules of your family or whatever's going on. It's way more, you feel way better of going, I want to escape. I'm going to put myself in Full Metal Alchemist because I'm going to be a cool alchemist and I'm going to be best friends with Ed and Al. It's going to be so cool.
Yeah. Like I said, juvenile.
Right.
I expect that for someone in middle school, maybe in high school, but you're a professional writer. I want you out of it. One of the original stories from the characters. Who's this Bip Bop character with their double PhD, best wizard hacker? Apparently can hack better than the major because for reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Mary Sue character.
She's also a better shooter than Bato, even though he's ranger, military ranger.
Well, sometimes that can be done right too. So I mean, you've got a great example is Ready Player One, which as a book was incredible, right? So it really, for anybody who really lived in that era, you saw a lot of references to a lot of things, but it had a reason behind it. It made sense why they were doing it, not just to do it. You know what I mean?
I agree. But going back, Wade's kind of a terrible character.
Oh, yeah. Wade starts off as a horrible person, but he ends up, well, and don't even get me started on a sequel. I read the sequel, and oh my god!
What you didn't like
That's the money grab. That's when you go back after what you try to recapture again.
What you didn't like them fighting the 7 different princes? You didn't like that? You didn't like that?
That wasn't the problem. It was the whole concept about it's just
I know
the AI versions of the people, and it was
I know.
Wicked Kender says, "Dear Lord, I love that sequel." Sorry.
Favorite book. What was that?
Yeah, Wicked Kender.
It really irritates me too because he is a decent writer. I've read other stuff, right? And I think he just tried to recapture something and he did it in a rushed way. Like he didn't take the time he needed to do it right. He was trying to capitalize on the movie coming out, so he rushed something through. And I don't know. It's disappointing. Put it that way.
Definitely. Yeah, but sometimes it works. Sometimes it. Honestly, for me, most times it doesn't work because it feels like it's very. Most times it feels like it's very forced.
Yeah, lazy and manipulative too. Right.
And then that's all over the place. It's on both. It's in every genre of writing.
But sometimes it's done okay. Sometimes it's done right. Where they do reboot it, they build on that nostalgia, and it feels good. It feels right.
They apparently did a pretty good job with 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, the 21 Jump Street. Have you seen the new 21 Jump Street? It's good. I recommend it. Yeah, it's really good. I have to watch it once in a while. I have to watch it a couple of times. Sometimes, I'll sit at home and I say a couple of things like this today. We were trying to come up with a solution to deal with people. And I started going man, we should probably put him in a camp. So I just had to watch 21 Jump Street at lunchtime.
Well, I was trying to get. My wife is real big on the original 21 Jump Street. She loves Johnny Depp. She sits there and she'll watch the 21 Jump Street channel on Freevee or whatever that just
Oh,
plays all the
yeah,
21 Jump Street over and over again, right? She loves that. So I was like, "Did you see the movie?" She goes, "Oh, I don't want to see the movie." Blah blah blah. I'm like, because Johnny Depp wasn't in it. I said, "Oh, but he is in the first one as a cameo."
Mhm.
And she's like, "Oh, okay." So I might get her to watch it because of that.
Is it a cameo? Is it a cameo?
It's a cameo. It's not necessarily the character cameo, but it's the actor cameo. So.
It's loose. It's
But
loose.
Could be the
one of those
character too
things
if you want to play with it a little bit.
Yeah.
That could be the character.
Yeah. See, like I got my wife. I got her watching. She never watched the original Charlie's Angels like TV show. We was watching it the other day. Yeah. So.
But
It was so bad. You see, I grew up watching all these shows like Knight Rider and Love Boat and Fantasy Island and Charlie's Angels.
Did you watch the Avengers?
Yeah. So I think the original, yeah. So the thing is that you watch these, and at the time you're thinking, "Oh, this is really good," and then now you look back and go, "We've come a long way in our ability to do storytelling in movies and TV."
Yeah,
because that was considered good then.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't crap then. It was just the best we had at the time.
Yeah.
We got
And some of the stuff, and I will say some of the writing on it was, I kind of liked some of it. Some of it I did want to like a cut for like some of the people. It's like, they just put things in the movies and TV shows these days, and I was just watching these women complain about in the 70s, like watching Charlie's Angels, complaining about wearing skimpy outfits in the show. It's part of the thing, and they're complaining about it. I'm like, see, it always has been here. It's fine. People
they
complain.
were trying to make statements too. Well, and that's one of the things about this too that we got to think about is that there are IPs and stories that we had when we were younger that weren't done justice, that we know now could be done better. So I think there's a lot of people trying to chase after that as well, to say, let's really tell the story better with the technology we have, with the writing we have, in the movie making chops that we've developed over the years. Let's redo it. And then sometimes not so good. Sometimes it does great.
That's my favorite reason to use remakes and reboots and all that kind of stuff, is to take something that had potential and let it see its full potential.
Yeah. Just like if someone tried to reboot Deadpool. Alf.
Why would they reboot Alf? That sounds terrible.
It's like they took, like when they screwed over Deadpool, and they were able to come back and redo that right.
Right.
Maybe one day they'll do Green Lantern right. I don't know.
Honestly,
CW had the chance.
The only reason people want to see the Flash movie is nostalgia. If Michael Keaton wasn't the Batman in it, would you go see it? If it was Christian Bale, not Michael Keaton, would you care?
Ooh, no, God,
honestly,
no.
honestly, that's my point. That's my point.
Well, people been wanting Michael Keaton back as Batman for a long time. That's why that Birdman movie did so well, because that was basically his
right
reemergence as that type of character. So
but
just give me Batman Beyond. That's all I want. So
why can't they do with Batman like they did with Spider-Man, where they have the splitting of the realities and all of them come together, so they can have Michael Keaton and Christian Bale and Val Kilmer all just kind of in the same movie.
That's 100%. That's the whole reason people want to see the Flash movie, because it's basically they're basically doing Flashpoint, so they're doing a bunch of different versions of characters.
We've got one of the best Batmans of all time, George Clooney. What?
Somebody had a meme about the best Batman Joker pairing. Who was the best one? So I was like, you guys left one off. The guys from Gotham, you didn't have them on there. And I got flamed for that one.
He wasn't the Joker, sir.
Good.
He wasn't called the Joker
at the end.
The end. Did they confirm that's the actual Joker?
In that universe, yeah. And that was the actual Batman too. He became Batman at the end too.
But
like the CW is just messing. Maybe I have to do a whole episode of like how the CW is just like hates money, hates
they drop
storytelling,
the ball and everything.
They don't read the effing room. And it just like the CW, it's like it does so well when it does characters that aren't the main one, where they have access to, you can let people have fun. But for some reason, someone in the corporate office is like, all right, we want you to use somebody close to the Bat family, but no, you can't use Batman. Don't you dare use Batman. Like, get really close. What? Why? Can we just use this? No, no, no. We want you here.
But since it's getting close to the hour, but to kind of bring it back to the point, is my concern is that because of how much people are pandering with nostalgia or using that as the crutch to sell ideas, we're going to run into this brick wall in which a lot of new ideas are going to be forced into being something that it's not for people, for it to even be made. So if like I want to make a horror show and people are like, well, I don't want just a horror show. Here, I need you to make it a Silent Hill show. And then this unique horror show that has nothing to do with Silent Hill now has to be called Silent Hill.
Right.
And now you've lost people's interest into it.
You understand that's been the problem for over a century, right? Or
Yes.
even probably longer in the history
Yes.
of times. Because look at what what's his name?
Right, I was going to bring up.
I completely drawn a blank. But they're, the silent movies guys, they wanted to do much more long form, and they just kept saying, no, you need to do this and this and this and put it in this format and one reel and blah blah blah, and you go on and do this, and then then better movies started getting made because people were breaking that mold and finding success with it. So
yes.
Right.
And I think that same formula is happening. I think a lot of people are looking at the damage, the cracks in the armor of Hollywood. It has been forming for the longest time, and I think the writer strike, if gone too long, is going to show that like Hollywood has lost its ability to control where movies are made, created, or have done anything. Most of the studios, most of everything is recorded somewhere else. The writers can be anywhere else, and I think a lot of because Tubi has finally started to launching and making their own series, and Tubi's originals are nuts. I recommend watching a couple of them because they're just experimental as heck. But they are out there.
A lot of the good stuff came out of like places like Adult Swim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had some great stuff come out of there. You get these indie studios, these people who are trying to break the. And I think with the way we have distribution these days, it's a little bit easier to do that because you can put a movie out without as much money and get it on certain platforms and find success with it. And if it gets a following, then you can explode with it. Like,
Amazon has done
right.
Amazon has done a great thing of just allowing you to, like, let's say like if we went and made like a movie, right? Amazon would, we could easily, like, there's a pathway to get this thing on Amazon streaming and get direct people like, hey, watch the show sitting on an Amazon stream. We get the video up there.
Mm-hmm. I think Wicked Kinder makes a solid point. Why I feel like this is relevant. I wonder if today's accessibility to legacy media has made us come to this view. In the past, the access to legacy media was very limited. Because we have almost everything at the tip of our fingertips, we can just get something else. The Wicker Man was a remake of the original one, but everybody doesn't even realize that there was an original half the time. They only think of the Nicolas Cage one because of the bees and the memes. There's one with, I believe it was Christopher Lee in the original, but people don't even think about that.
Oh, but what about I guess it was that I Am Sam or something like that, where it was about the apocalypse and people turning into zombies. That was a remake of Mega Man, which is a remake of another movie. I Am Legend. That's it.
I Am Legend. Yeah. I Am Sam.
My mind is not. I told you I haven't had any sleep. I couldn't remember the name Charlie Chaplin 5 minutes ago, so I don't. Just give me a minute.
It's fair.
But that was based off of a Mega Man, which was based off of another movie before that, right? I mean,
right.
We do this every so often too. So
hold on. Right. What movie is a Mega Man based off of?
There was a 40s movie. 40s or 50s movie. I don't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up. It wasn't an original either.
I loved the Mega Man.
I grew up. I watched that when I was a kid on TV, and I was just like, it was one of my favorite movies growing up. Watching Charlie.
watched that as a kid on TV. Different, in color though.
But like my, but yes, but the Wicked Kinders has an exact point of, because we can see the lines that it's connected to now.
Mhm.
We can see that this is what this is a remake of, and that's what it's leading. That's who they're targeting, because because we have so much access to going back to. If I want to go watch Thundercats, I can go watch Thundercats.
Well,
If I want to
and
go
remember,
watch Ghostbusters, I can go watch Ghostbusters.
we ran into that with literature too, where you had literature it was hard to come by and stories would come around, and then when literature became, book printing was so easy and you started having access to all this libraries of books, you started to see all the patterns of all the stories, right? And then movies came out and it kind of reset a little bit, and TV and reset, that sort of thing. So
right. And well, I will say that there's definitely a lot of hope there. There's plenty of people that are able to be creative, and there are avenues to get these different things out. Like the game Hi-Fi Rush was just like a rhythm based action game that was colorful and futuristic and cartoony, and it dropped out of nowhere with no hype or anything. It became like the best seller for like 2 weeks. At the same time of like Atomic Heart, so it's a game which had a bunch of hype came out with it. So there are a lot of good potential creative people being able to make creative things and get it out there for people to enjoy. But because you see so much of the cynical cash grab of, let's remake this thing again, let's make a live action movie of whatever, let's make a live action Pinocchio at the exact same time Guillermo del Toro is making a Pinocchio that's based off of the original fairy tale, so that way we could try to cash in on his money. Just
and
someone that's
I
making
looked it up real quick for you.
mermaid movie.
Okay. Looked it up real quick for you, Harry. The original, so there was a book called I Am Legend. Based off of that was a movie called The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price in 1964. Then Charlton Heston made The Omega Man in 1971, and then there was another movie we don't want to talk about.
I don't know what we're talking about. Anyway, so I went to watch that one with Vincent Price.
Yeah, I just kind of want to just talk about it because I see it constantly inundated with them remaking things over and over and over again, and stuff, and taking ideas and just reprocessing them. Like, we're making, like, I think there's like 10 more remakes of games that are coming out in the next year, of games that are games that are even 10 years old.
Do these remakes
Diablo
make
4,
money?
Baldur's Gate.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people are cashing in on the remake, especially because Capcom made the Resident Evil 2 remake and the 3 remake and the 4 remake.
Speaking of remakes,
and they're making money.
I think we're gonna have to remake the media that made a series. We're just gonna remake it, feed off the nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a while. We'll just redo it. Let's just redo it, reboot it, reimagine it.
Well, we always talked about we were going to do more honorable mentions. We never did those. So I got like a dozen more things.
We haven't done another live stream yet. We haven't done another live
stream. Yeah.
No.
But I mean, nostalgia is everywhere, and everybody loves it. And it's one of those things that's become so frustrating to see it everywhere for me, because it feels like they're just trying to constantly cash in instead of creating anything. They already announced another Harry Potter series.
Right.
A TV
but you gotta understand, part of it too is not just the people making the stuff, is that the fans want to see more of their favorite stuff. They want to see that sequel. They want to see the more in that genre of that. How long did we clamor to have the rest of the Star Wars films made? Well, we got our wish eventually, but I mean, there was 9 originally planned, so we got our 9, for better or for worse. But like games. You play a game and then the sequel comes out and it's like, oh, I know the John, know how the game feels. It's a little bit different now. It's more updated. Okay, this is better, and then people are attracted to that and want that. They demand that. When's this new version of the game coming out? They want to hear, like, I play Guild Wars 2 and people are talking about Guild Wars 3 or some stupid stuff. And, there's always that there from the fan base as well. That's why it does work. Why the producers and the people making the stuff chase it is because there's demand for it. Familiarity on both sides. It's not just, one side there.
Right. And then the demand gets met with something like the Reboot remake, which made Reboot into a half live action, half CGI show. Or, people want more Lord of the Rings, so we're going to make Rings of Power. And, and then we're also going to make like 4 more movies that are kind of based in the Silmarillion, but not really. But because we want to make more Lord of the Rings, but the Lord of the Rings fans kind of don't really want this.
Well, remember at the beginning here, he was saying something about making it in the genre or in the world, but not necessarily the same characters. Isn't that really kind of what they did with the Lord of the Rings TV show? They made it in that world, but it wasn't those characters in that story. It was a whole different story that they were trying to tell, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. I didn't watch it.
So we kind of say we want something, and then sometimes we don't either. So,
I didn't watch that. I didn't watch. I didn't want more
Lord of the Rings of our stuff too. As fans, we're very protective, so we don't like sometimes to see that retelling with different stories, but in the same world, because it doesn't feel like a great example. I was reading Terry Pratchett when I was a kid. I read the first 2 books, and they had a character named Rincewind in it. Loved the guy. It's like the main character, hilarious. Love the guy. So I picked the 3rd book up. He wasn't in it, had nothing to do with him, but it was in the world. And I said, I'm not going to read that. So I never bought it. And then like 5-6 years later, I see that there's 4 more books. I'm like, well, I guess I'll try it out again. And I realized that it's really the world that I loved and not necessarily characters. All the characters were great if you give them a chance. So there is that initial, for fans sometimes, that rejection of that thing just because it feels like you're ruining what they enjoyed about the original that you're watching. So
it's like every Subaru is ugly, fresh off the line. No one hates it, everyone hates it. It's ugly, it's this awful, it's a sin against God for this thing to see the light of day.
Until the new series comes out, it's even worse and everybody's nostalgic for what it used to look like.
Exactly. Before it was like, oh, the bug-eye supers are terrible. Now I'm watching them like, well, selling for like, back into 5 figures again. It was like, what? I thought everyone hated it. It was like, or some of the, which was called the ugly Porsche, that was the 995 with the the sunny egg lights. Oh, these are awful. Now they're shooting back up in price. I'm like, okay, I thought no one liked these.
Right. It's actually really hilarious because I watched a video before this, the newest video from a creator called Ellis Mark, who was talking about this show called Fanboy and Chum Chum, and this dynamic that happens now of a show comes out or something comes out and everybody hates it because they don't enjoy it. It's not very good. They're not a fan of it, and then time passes, and then the kids who grew up with it can now see it and post clips out of context, and then it creates ironic fans that become non-ironic fans because they watch these clips and then they think that people are hating it too much, and then it creates this whole new fandom based on this cycle of reintroducing things into a culture that, even if when it originally came out was hated, nobody liked it, nobody really enjoyed it, some people there's a demographic for it somewhere, at some point in time, that if the right person finds it and puts it into that demographic's viewpoint, it becomes its own cult classic thing. Right? Because honestly, it still blows my mind that the fact that how popular and ingrained in society Nightmare Before Christmas is, with it being such a really random, obscure stop motion cartoon that about Halloween invading Christmas, and nobody's a good character in that show. everybody is terrible except for Sally, but even then she poisons people
I know,
to
literally
do whatever
almost
she
killed some
wants.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's it's still massive in the viewpoint of society, of even now 20-30 years after it came out.
Yeah, people still love it. I enjoy watching it. I know a lot of people are obsessed with it. Most of this, you guys see me wear my Nightmare for Christmas Jack hat. Like, I didn't buy that. People buy me stuff, but they find out I like the series, and they just buy me stuff. And like, I accept it because I do love the series, but like, I understand like how commercialized it's become.
Right, and it's one of those things. It's crazy to think that something that feels like it should have been very niche and is just part of the zeitgeist of of cultural zeitgeist at this point.
Yep. Every Christmas and Halloween, it pops up. Everyone's got everything of it. So, yeah. All right. Well, this episode's starting to get long in the truth. You guys said you just want to wrap up, and you guys any final words?
I just think, that nostalgia is good in small doses as long as it doesn't overpower everything else. Because even us, literally at the end of the last episode, after we finished it, we spent 20-30 minutes reminiscing on on Mad TV sketch comedy.
Yeah.
We spent 30 minutes talking about sketch comedy and sketch comedy shows that we enjoyed.
And we didn't record it unless you're $5,000 a month contributor. You can hear
exactly, precisely that. But it's nostalgia is good in doses, in my opinion. Instead of it making everything about who you are, and I feel like that it becomes this issue when everything you see is nostalgia bait or something that is trying to poke at that nostalgic core in your brain, that it makes you think that something more creative is not worth your time. Because you are so used to, well, this doesn't have the thing I like in it, so I don't care.
Randall?
Oh, I just think there's always exceptions to everything. So sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good, but it's got to be done the right way. And that's the whole problem, is that people just don't. They might have a good idea, but it just doesn't pan out because they don't execute right, or there's interference from studios, or there's people wanting to put this in or that in, or there's expectations that are trying to be met. So this is what we get. So I don't know how we change it or I don't even know if you can. I think it's kind of the way things kind of always go with the entertainment world. So just hold on to the ride and love the stuff you love, and let other people love the stuff they love.
Well, then I'm going to leave you guys with a verse from Local H, which is a great song. And to me, it's the song that's been going through my head the entire episode. We talked about this, but here goes. And here we go again. It's never going to end. We're all so sick of California's songs. Yeah, we know you love LA. There's nothing left to say. Please no more California songs. Fuck New York too. We keep getting these fucking writers and people from these areas. They're going to keep writing the exact same stupid ass stories because they keep smelling of the same stupid ass air. Like, just get stories and just go other places. Hollywood doesn't control our stories anymore. We can go anywhere else and get stories. So, but yeah. So if you listened up this far in the episode, thank you. You're a true fan. You could have been listening to anything else in the world, but you decided to listen to this. And that I thank you. This is a live recording of the podcast that we do at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. So please come hang out with us live. Come interact with the show. It's a lot of fun. So we thank you for downloading the podcast. So yeah, say goodbye, everybody.
Reboot.
No, we're not doing reboot. We're not doing reboot.